Hey people, before we get to the content, I want to take a moment, and if you're new to the channel, welcome you. And if you're looking for this kind of content, if this is what interests you, if you find this video useful, make sure you leave a comment. Give me a like or give me a thumbs down, a dislike. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you don't like about the video. Oh, maybe I can change things up. But if you find this content useful and you think others might find this content useful, please share this video, and then it'll make it easier for other people to find it. So with that, welcome, and let's get to the video. So this is the way the sidewalk started out. This is what we have to start with. Sidewalk was like that when we moved into the house. We said it as soon as we moved in that we were going to replace that sidewalk with a new concrete sidewalk, until we found out how much it was to do that. So 10 years later, the sidewalk's still sitting there. So I decided to take on this monstrous task about a month ago, 5 weeks ago, and here we are. We get started. First thing was taking all the old concrete out, digging out. I dug out about 6 inches of complete matter. I took off the grass, of course, and dug out 4 inches of dirt, soil, and actually I took it down a total of 5.5 inches. So I did dig out the 5.5 inches. I put back in layers. So I had some issues. I had an old post there in the corner that I had to jackhammer out. The hand jackhammer, I think it's called a hand hammer jack or something like that. I call it a Hilti. I use that. You can get those pick one of those up at Harbor Freight, fairly inexpensive. You can rent large jackhammers if you need one, but that's all I needed. So got that out, and I dug out 5.5 inches of debris. I squared it off. I used a measurement off the side of my house. That was the only point that I had to square. So I squared everything off of that one straight line that you see there, and I based everything off of that. Got my measurements, figured up how big my brick were, how wide I was gonna go, and I dug it all out, and it was a lot of digging. So at this point in the video, I'm putting down the fabric material that allows for drainage. Now, what is not shown in this video was that once I dug all of this out, and you'll see here I'm putting all of this crushed rock. This is paver base, which is actually dense grade gravel, is basically what it is. I did put 4.5 inches of this dense grade in after I put down the fabric material. This makes for a good solid base for the pavers to go onto, and once it's compacted, makes for a really good base so that you can put your sand down and put your pavers into the sand and lock it, and that will pretty much assure that you're not going to have bricks that are wiggling and moving around, won't wash away, anything like that. But what I didn't know was that once I did all of this, I took some of the dirt that I pulled out of this and I leveled my front yard out because water always stood in my front yard. Well, that changed the drainage of my yard a little bit, but we always had a problem with water laying in the yard. But once I dug this sidewalk out, and here is after the dense grade is in. This is after the dense grade. This has the sand waiting to go in, and there's the tamper that I use, and I'm kind of laying out the brick here, getting a look at it. But if you look there, you'll see the 2 drains that I installed. Now this was several days later. I had to, that's why you're seeing the straw everywhere. I got this dense grade in, and a huge rain came, and it rained for 3 days, and nothing drained. I literally had 6 inches of water in that walkway. So I had to install a French drain and catch basins, and I installed a flex pipe about 75 feet out to the street. You'll see there, that's what I had to do. I installed that all the way out. That's not part of this project though. So that took care of my drainage problem and also drained the yard. So now we're back on the original job. So I have my base down. There's my hand tamper. I hand tamped it all. I've read different things, and it was we had enough rain and enough traffic on it in between times. I feel like that there's not going to be much traffic on this anyway, so I think we're going to be just fine. We probably don't get 10 people walk on this sidewalk in a year, so it's not used. It's just there to the front door. We don't really use the front door. So getting the pavers started, lined everything out. At the last minute, I decided I wanted to change the job. I don't suggest you do that because I'd already figured in all my bricks. I'd already picked up all my bricks, and I decided I was going to go with a full brick on each side as a kind of as an outline, and then I think it's 4 bricks inside. Anyway, it ended up being more bricks across. So anyway, I decided on the pattern, and then you want to make sure you decide all this before you start the job. And so I started what they call screeding, which is I took a 3/4 inch cheap PVC pipe. It's not going to need to. It's just going to be used as a guide, so it doesn't need to be anything expensive. If he has some old stuff laying around, that'd be just fine. But I took the 3/4 inch. That gives me an outside diameter of about 1 inch, and I laid that down on the paver base, the dense grade, and I put my sand down and made me a piece of wood that would go right across this perfectly, and I screeded out my sand and made me a base for my pavers. Each paver goes in, it's leveled in every direction, and then I tamped it down using a deadhead hammer and a rubber mallet, and I checked in every direction to make sure it's level. Now I've come to a step. Now when you come to a step, you need to go back 10 inches, dig down, and you need to take into account the base that you're going to use for your step. Now I had my step all figured out, and remember I changed the width of my sidewalk. So this also changed my steps. So you'll see I had to make some adjustments. I had to make some cuts. Now after you put your base to your step in, you're going to want to set everything into place, even your capstone, and you want to make sure everything comes out level and that you got a good level step so that you can start your next run of pavers. And so you want to backfill everything. Now unfortunately I did some things wrong. When I dug out these steps, I took all the dirt and I used it in different places in my yard. You need to hold on to this stuff as you're going. You're going to have a lot of extra, but you don't know what you're going to need at this point. And so I had to go back out and buy a bunch more paver base, dense grade gravel. So once you get your step in, you want to make sure it's level in all directions, but you also got to make sure that everything's going to line up and that it's going to look right. Sometimes there's a little bit of a trade-off between, now you want it to be, everything to be square, but sometimes there's a little bit of some trade-offs that you got to make things look right and work right. That's just something you'll have to work out. Now I tamped all this down and it still wasn't enough. I needed a lot more material. I ended up putting 12 bags in this thing to backfill. Now my job, like I say, went on much longer than it should have, and it was stretched out over a long time. So I ended up using that dirt other places when I should have held on to a lot of it. So now I've taken everything apart on my step. Once again, making sure everything is level in all directions, and I glued everything down, and I've backfilled. Now I'm ready to start my pavers again. And remember, we have to get that next level of bricks. They need to be straight, they need to be level, because that's where people are gonna step onto this. There's my guides. That gives me the depth of the sand. You do not want to go over 1 inch of sand for your brick. I've seen some people had 4 or 5 inches of sand. Probably those bricks are going to move over time with that much sand. You just can't use that much sand. You really need to stick with 1 inch or less. So that's why I'm using the rails there, to make sure that I have an even base of sand, and that it's 1 inch or less. Having these 2 pieces of pipe in here will assure that I have less than 1 inch. Now, after I got all my sand in, and I was looking at making sure my levels were right, I was starting my brick, I still wasn't right. This is something that is, your first step is going to be a trial and error. I still wasn't right. I had to pull all the sand back. I had to put in more dense grade gravel and make sure that I was ready to put in the 1 inch of sand and the 1 inch tall brick, because the brick has to be even with the capstone there, which is what I didn't take into account. So once I laid the bricks onto the sand, they also had to be even with the capstone on the steps. So that was the reason I added all that again. Now you'll see I have a knee pad that I carry along with me. This is essential with doing this type of work. I also have on some very inexpensive foam knee pads. I wouldn't use the hard shell knee pads. Those things will hurt you more than they help. You can pick up these very inexpensive $3 to $5 foam knee pads at Harbor Freight. I know I say Harbor Freight a lot, but for jobs like this, you know, that's a great place to find these tools. With the knee pads and the movable pad that I have there for to rest on, I wouldn't have been able to do the job without it. And it was very inexpensive. My mallet came from Harbor Freight. My dead blow hammer came from Harbor Freight. And I also bought a 90-degree hand grinder that I used to cut these bricks with, and it cut through these bricks like butter. I'd suggest if you do this job, I paid I think $12 to $16 for this thing, and I would suggest if you don't have one of these, I would buy the inexpensive one. You probably are not going to use it that much, and if it makes it through this job, you've done good. This is another one of my projects. So I'm getting things started again. Now the design that I've chosen starts off with a full brick laid horizontally, then a brick vertically, and then a half brick vertically, then a full brick vertically, and on across. So that means I'm going to need 3 half bricks. That's where I use my 90-degree sander, 90-degree grinder with a stone cutting blade on it. And you'll see here, after I got to putting my bricks in, I noticed that my step had moved. I leaned on it, you know, this thing hadn't dried yet, and everything hadn't set in, and I was leaning on it so much that I'd moved it. So let these things set and make sure that they're good and dry before you get back to work on them. So I had to make a bunch of adjustments. Fortunately, everything worked out. Now I'm off to make my cuts. Now, this whole job, there's a series of 10 or 12 videos on my channel if you want to watch a day-to-day extended version of this job, but this is the job edited down to one medium-sized YouTube video. I can get the information to you here and show you the job also without all the extras. Cut out all the non-essential stuff here. And this is a job that I think anybody can do. Anybody, even if you're limited physically, you can do this job. You just have to take your time. I have some physical limitations, and I was determined to do the job, so I just worked every day and worked at my own pace, and I was determined to do it. And when I had questions, I looked up the information, and I'm trying to share that knowledge that I gained in doing this job. I'm trying to share that right now with you, and to help you with your confidence if you're looking to do this, especially if you're a member of my channel. If you subscribed, you probably are looking to do some weekend jobs and some smaller things that maybe you didn't think you could do in the past. And hopefully with my encouragement and passing along a little bit of my knowledge, you can get some of these projects done. Like I say, I know that anybody can do this job with a minimal set of tools. Probably a $50 investment in tools, you could do this job. That's about what you see I'm using there, about a $50 investment. That covers the knee pads and everything. And I have about, I used about 540 bricks. It's a very doable job. You'll see it starting to rain on me, but that's okay. A little bit of rain in a job like this is okay. There's Ayla, my dog. She's usually in all my videos. If you subscribe to my channel, you'll be seeing her in probably every video. So, and it was raining, so I took a little break, do some things on the phone, wait and see. As long as it doesn't pour on me, we're gonna be okay. As long as it doesn't pour. Now we're getting ready to hit the next step. Now I've done the first step, so I feel a little more confident. The blocks are set into place. I'm getting everything ready. I have set the blocks into place, and I'm going to dig out 10 inches from where I want to start the step. I'm going to dig 10 inches back. I'm going to pull that material out. Now here's the thing, I have the dense grade gravel already in, so I'm going to put a tarp on the dense grade gravel behind me. Just a second here. We're getting ready to bring the tarp around. And the reason I'm doing that is so that I can separate the dense grade from the dirt that's going to be getting dug out. Remember, I'm going to put all this back, but I don't want to mix the dirt with the dense grade. I want to put it back in the correct order. So another thing to remember when you put your final step in, or when you're getting within sight of your finish, remember where you're going and make sure you're going to be able to match that up. Now the reason I say that, and there's the tarp I put out to separate my product. The reason I say that, I have a concrete pad that comes off the bottom of my steps where I will be terminating the sidewalk. You can see it right there. I'm standing on it. Now there's an edge on this concrete pad. There's going to be a 1 brick edge, so I have to make sure that this sidewalk comes squarely to the concrete, and that I can put this 1 brick edge on this pad. So I got to keep that in mind. Always keep that in sight. Always make sure that we're square and level. I've dug all my dirt out, and I'm getting ready to do a dry fit of the bricks. There's the base bricks. Those are actually big stones, and I'm measuring everything off. I see that those stones are a little wider than the brick base is, so I need to actually dig out some more dirt to make sure that this thing has clearance, and I have to make sure that this thing is level and square, level in all directions. And remember, it has to pick up that top line of bricks. So it has to be level in all directions, but it especially has to be flat so that that first set of bricks that you pick up, so that they don't lean or have chipping points. So here I'm leveling it out. Might have to add some gravel to the front. You might have to add some to the back. You may have to take some gravel out to make sure that that first stone is deep enough into the ground so that your step is the correct height. I go with about 8 inches on the step height. That's what I went with on this. Now I'm adding dense grade under this stuff, tamping it down using another brick. You can't really see me do that, but I have a brick that I'm grabbing there, tamping this stuff down. Now I'm going to do another dry fit. Get the level out, make sure everything's level. Now that first step, looking from this picture, from this video, looks like on the right side there may be an issue. That's kind of an optical illusion. That's because of the way the dirt on the yard. That's kind of about the way that dirt hits that. And there is a little dip in the paver sidewalk on the right side of the first set that I put down there. There's a little bit of a little dip there. The paver base was a little low there maybe. But that's more of an optical illusion than anything. So still working on getting this thing level, and there's Ayla finding her a good spot to lay down. She'll be back. And you'll see how important it is to make sure that this thing is level, and sometimes how annoying it can be to put this thing in and out and make sure that it's level. And we've almost got it in now. And you'll see I'm making some measurements. That block has to be cut. And I'm back looking over some measurements that I made. So I've taken the block back and cut it using my 90-degree grinder. I'm back, set everything in place. Ayla's back. And I'm getting ready to glue everything in. Make sure it's level. sure it's what I want. Now I've got everything in, and you'll see it looks much different now. I'm ready to start the brickwork on the upper level. Now I have to, now there's going to be a little bit of a hill up here on top. I have my elevation correct, but there's still a little bit of a rolling effect on the top here. But I have to make sure that my bricks are good and level. I had to cut bricks again to start the new run. And I have my 3/4 inch rails down to make sure that I have the correct depth of sand. And my dead blow hammer there. I haven't seen another video that shows a dead blow hammer. I use the dead blow hammer, and I don't think that I could have done the job without it. Now, I guess it could break some bricks, but I don't think I could have done this job without the dead blow hammer. The rubber mallet just wasn't working for me. So here we are. We're in the stretch now. Down the stretch I come here. Well, I'm laying it down quick now. Look at that. Got the 1 inch of sand or less, and moving right along now. You'll see the dead blow hammer's doing a wonderful job. There's the knee pad and the Gatorade. I think it was 100 degrees that, well, it was 96 degrees that day. And it's getting hot. I usually work early, but this day I was working a little bit late. And we're in the final run here, and you'll see where that line of brick that I'm adding around that concrete pad, you'll see here. I have to make sure that that's in line to go around that pad, and things are looking good. You'll see I just took down my my string, my level string. Everything's lined up, looking good, and we're gonna finish. I'm gonna have the 3 half bricks again. Unfortunately, I had to cut a different brick for each one because of the size of these bricks. You cut one in half, it's not in half. It doesn't come out equal, so you can't use it. Each brick requires a cut. And finishing things up. Get things in place. Now, everything is set. I'm happy with everything. Every single paver is level where I want it. And I'm gonna clean everything off. And we're gonna add the poly set. You're gonna sweep this stuff into the cracks of the pavers, and that's going to set these pavers in for a permanent set. Now you see me, I'm putting this, you're supposed to get it onto the area, but try to get it mainly into the cracks. Now I'm putting this stuff down, and it's nearly all gone. So I'm thinking, well, I'm going to have to go get 2 or 3 more buckets of this stuff. Now you sweep this stuff into the cracks, and after everything is covered, you sweep all the excess off. Now sweep it into a pile. Sweep it all into a pile, and then I realize, hey, there's a big pile of this stuff left. I'm gonna have to shovel this stuff up. So I got a dustpan, and I shoveled it up and put it onto the next level. And I'm thinking might have to get 1 more pail of this stuff now. Won't have to get 2 or 3, but probably need 1 more. And I get it onto the next level. You want to work the stuff back and forth. Make sure all the cracks are filled with this stuff. But you want to make sure all the excess is off. You have to have all the excess off. Also, these bricks cannot be wet when you put this down. Your bricks must be dry. So sweep the product into the next level, and I noticed that this stuff is like magic. I think that I have more than I started with. Where's this stuff coming from? So now I'm thinking one bucket may be enough to do this whole thing. This stuff is, I don't know where it's coming from. It turned out one bucket was exactly enough to do this whole thing. It really surprised me. Once I started, it looked like it was going to take 2 or 3 buckets of this stuff. But once you work it in, you end up with so much left. Make sure you don't sweep it off to the sides or anything like that. Sweep it into a pile and just keep moving it into your project. You have to work it back and forth. Pull your excess into your spots that need it, and just keep working it. Make sure you clean all the excess off. And then you're gonna wet it down. Now you're gonna spray it down. Now you're not trying to wash any of this off. You just want to get everything wet, and you want to make sure that if you see the foam areas there, you want to make sure most of that is off, because if any excess is on the surface of the bricks, it will stain when it dries. So you want to make sure that everything is into the grouted areas when you spray everything off. You don't want to blow any of this stuff out. You want to get everything good and wet so that when it dries, it'll set solid. That's gonna do it for this episode. It's time to relax and enjoy the rest of the day. And if you found this information useful, make sure you leave me a comment down below or give me a like. And if you're new to the channel, be sure and subscribe. Hit the notification button. You'll be notified the next time I put out some more content. So that's the way I do it. We'll see you next time.